Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I like. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Blacklist as well as Rush Hour. In this episode of The Blacklist, we kind of open with Liz's funeral, just kind of like, just a very sad opening. It's just essentially everyone kind of dealing with the whole situation. It's like, you see Harold at the front, he's giving a eulogy talking about how, that everyone's better for knowing Liz. That from the very first day he met her, she was like, "Oh, I'm nothing special. Like, why does Reddington want to work for me?" And now he's like, "Now we all sit here. We all know that she was wrong. That she was something very special." It just kind of breaks your heart. Very interesting thing though is the fact is Harold and his wife are kind of trying to fix things up, which he was hesitant to do, but he's doing even more. Which you can only assume he's doing it now because Liz is dead. Because Liz, had talked him into, it's like, no, you should forgive her, give her another chance, because her and Tom are kind of giving it another chance. So it's like, you can forgive her too, especially with their complicated relationship. She had an affair, but it's like, you can possibly work together to work past that, so. And we also had Reddington in this episode kind of like off on his own, because the sad thing is he didn't even show up to Liz's funeral. I guess he just couldn't bring himself to do it. We end up seeing him meeting Liz's grandfather, who apparently she had no knowledge of them. The only person we've ever known about the fact is her mom, so we had zero knowledge knowing that she had any other family. And so you see him kind of talking to him, and he kind of brings up the fact is, "Oh, what did you come here? Did you want me to come here? Did you want me to give you some sympathy or something?" He's like, "No, that's not. That's good because don't expect any from me." Because essentially he's like, "I blame you for Reddington for everything, because for my daughter's death as well as Liz, my granddaughter's death. It's because it's like all the decisions you made, all these wrong decisions you made led to them dying. It's like it's your fault." And so it's just kind of like, you kind of see that resonates heavy with Reddington. There's even a point later on in the episode because, the FBI is looking into the people that were who the people that basically financed and was working with Solomon to come get Liz, who were the people who were responsible for her being dead, meaning that, granted, she died during childbirth, but still that she would never been in that situation, the medical situation she was in, if it wasn't for them coming after them. So they're basically tracking her down. And essentially, Iran ended up finding Reddington and was basically like, "Yo, you need to come back." And, he's like, essentially, Iran even kind of nuts up and kind of makes a deal. Like, he's like, brazenly, he's like, "The fact is, you told me that basically, you told me like what it's like, that to like when someone dies, that basically kind of like the foundations of the world kind of get yanked underneath you." And he's like, "I know you're heartbroken. I know that you're kind of finding it hard to stand. Your foundation's kind of wobbly now because of everything that's happened." But he's like, "I helped save Liz, kind of, make sure she was okay in that situation when it was the cabal after her." Which, interestingly enough, that I'm surprised they don't have a hand in all this, but I guess, after everything that went down, they're kind of like keeping, their distance from her, because the last thing they need is Reddington getting up in their business again. So, but anyway, he's like, "I helped with the cabal, so it's like you owe me a debt for helping her out of that situation." He doesn't mean that like, oh yeah, he's just trying to do everything he can to get Reddington to come back to help, track down the people who are connected to Liz. But Reddington's like, "I just don't have what it takes to repay that debt." And he closes his door. He's just, "Goodbye, Harold. I'm just not coming back." Because there was a lady, the lady Harold basically answers to, that redheaded lady. I think she's redheaded, right? I don't know, maybe I'm just being stupid. Essentially, his boss, he essentially, because she was bringing up the fact is like, "Where's Reddington?" Everyone's like, "I don't know where Reddington is." It's like the only reason why he worked with the FBI was because of Liz. And it's like, now that she's gone, what would he do? Essentially, they have to decide. Like, she's like, basically, stop looking into this whole Liz's situation and look into Reddington and find out if he's going to still work with us or not. And you end up having Liz's grandfather bring up something very interesting. He's basically like, because the reason why Reddington's come there is like, basically, he wanted to talk to her dad and find out like her Liz's grandfather be like, he needed help finding out how to move forward, because he didn't know where to go now without Liz. After everything that's happened, he just doesn't know how to move forward. He's kind of just stuck. And he's like, honestly, he's like, "How do I live?" And he's like, "Look at the situation I'm in. I've been hiding out here for so many years. Do I look like I'm living?" Because the fact of the matter is, after his daughter died, he kind of shut out he never really found a reason to ever leave because he didn't even make contact with Liz because Liz didn't even know he existed. He didn't even know Liz was pregnant. And the fact is, he's a great grandfather now, because he didn't know that until Reddington said something to. But he always kept a distance from her because he felt like it was the best way to protect her. But he's like, the fact is, Reddington, you came back in her life and you changed all that. You just couldn't stay away. So it's like, what is Reddington's connection to her? Like, we still don't know. Obviously, it seemed like he had feelings for her mom. I don't think that's her dad, but I'm really truly believing that, he had feelings for her mom. So. But, he's like, you need to go back, He's like, these are people who rely on you and need your help. And he's just kind of like, God help them. The fact is, people that rely on you, good people that rely on you and need your help, it's like, God help them that they need help from you. They need you and need help from you. So in this episode, we also had there was a guy they were basically tracking who might have some kind of connection to what happened to Liz. And essentially, he was about to be kidnapped. And essentially, one of the people that was about to kidnap him was that lady. I don't remember her name, but she was in the episode. She was like in 2 episodes ago. She was the one that led the FBI on that when they were looking for nuclear weapons when Mr. Solomon was coming after Liz. That episode, before he went, ended up finding out the whole thing was like it's a trick because they were essentially when they were coming after. Hitting the church, you ended up finding out the whole thing was them apparently looking for a nuclear weapon was a smoke screen, a diversion so they could get to Liz. I know I stammered and it took too long to get to that. I just kind of had a brain fart right there. So words were coming to me slowly. So she was there. And it's like, even Harold kind of asked about it. He asked his boss about it. It's like, why is she free? And essentially, she's like, there's some people higher up in the government who had some kind of connection to it. But that's all she really said. She's like, Harold, back down. You and the FBI can't be looking into this Liz case. So he calls in Tom, because essentially he's like, because Tom wants to kind of work with him because he's like, honestly, to get this job done, you're going to need to get a little dirty. And he's like, getting dirty is kind of my specialty. But, initially, Harold was kind of like, no, you got your child to look at, you got Agnes to look after. So just like stay with your child, your father now, protect her, that's your main duty. But he was like, no, he's like, we're not making any progress, we need to get on this. So he calls up Tom. Tom ends up following Harold's boss, and he's meeting with some mysterious lady, who this mysterious lady has some kind of connection to the guy that was about to be kidnapped, because he met with her about an hour beforehand. And Tom ends up throwing out the theory, he's like, this woman could be, who is played by Famke Janssen, I always worry about mispronouncing her last name. The very lovely Famke Janssen. He throws out the theory that this lady might be Liz's mom because, Reddington always said that Liz's mom was dead, but it's like, okay, that might have, that Liz always felt like that might not be the case. Which, to me, I was like, I don't know. Does she look older? Like, to me, she's not, I don't think she's old enough to be Liz's mom. Not unless Liz's mom had her, like, when she was, like, super young. Granted, we saw, like, kind of an image of what, I don't know, maybe that was, like, a personification supposed to represent what she looked like. The last episode when Reddington was kind of crazy. So it's like, I don't know, maybe that was just kind of, like, visual representation of her, possibly. Because that's maybe not really her, but it was supposed to represent her, kind of, is what I'm trying to get at. I don't know. Maybe she really is Liz's mom. I don't know, because it's kind of been up in the air whether or not, like, Liz's mom is dead or not. Just like Liz's situation, I'm still up in the air on whether I think she's dead or not. I hope she's not, but it's like, honestly, you can't tell. This is literally the second show this week. It's literally a day later about another, I was talking about Arrow with its situation. I'm not going to talk about it, obviously, but it's like, they have a kind of a character being dead situation here, which I'm not sure if that character is really dead or not. And now I'm watching this show, which I don't really know if that character is dead or not. So I just thought it was very interesting. 2 different shows, 2 different networks, a night apart. I don't know, just something to throw out there. They ended up tracking down those guys, too, the ones that were helping out Mr. Solomon. Basically, they're kind of tech support. Essentially, it's a group of people using what's it called, the Adamex network or whatever. Essentially, it was like a a group that was essentially basically going to kind of bring the network to all around the world. So there was like 73 satellites put in space, but the program kind of fell apart, and so they just abandoned them. And they were basically using those satellites. Essentially, they tracked them down, but by the time they got there, all the guys had run, because they saw the FBI coming. So crashed everything, fried motherboards, so there was no way of getting information. So, but I said at the very end of the episode, we had Reddington coming to Haran saying like, okay, let's get this job done. It's time to get to work. So he's back. What Haran said as well as what Liz's grandfather said just kind of finally resonate with him. So he's like, we got to get this done. So really interested to see what this is all about. Like who this lady is. Is she really Liz's mom? Just like where are things going to go from here? Like tracking down all these people who are connected to, what happened to Liz. Like, was this really like, if it was her mom, was she really behind all this? And how is she going to feel knowing that like all the people, like if that is Liz's mom, how's she going to feel, finding out that basically all this happened was because the people she sent after her daughter ended up doing that. They ended up essentially leading to her dying. So granted, she'll probably throw it back on Reddit and be like, it's his fault. So I'm just so curious to find out about like who she is and if she really is her mom. And it's just like, will they ever be able to track down everyone that was involved, particularly Mr. Solomon, as well as those guys who, I don't know if their operation is 100% shut down now. I mean, granted, we saw that the fact is that this was their main headquarters, but that doesn't mean they don't have other areas located. But now the FBI knows how they're doing what they're doing. So I don't know, maybe they're going to go underground. Who knows? I mean, what's this all have to do with, because the fact is, what's with these secret meetings with Cooper's balls, as well as meeting with the guy who's going to get kidnapped in this episode? It's like, what does this all have to do with you? And it's like, does she have special government like connections for her to be like, the reason why that lady was released is probably because she had a hand to play in it. Because the fact is, I don't know, there's too many questions, and I just hope next week we get some answers, or at least next episode. I don't know if there's going to be, like I said, no previews, so I don't know if there's going to be an episode next week. But next episode was. Hopefully we get some of those answers. So. Now moving on to this week's episode of Rush Hour, which is a very interesting episode where we have Lee visited by his sister Kim. She's essentially telling him about the Quantow or trafficking women and the new shipment is coming in. And, it's Lee, he's trying to like tell her, like he's like, doesn't know if he should believe her or not. She's like, you're a detective, figure things out. It's like, where is it going down? And essentially, he's just like, where did things go wrong between us? He's like, I brought you in, I try to take care of you. I try to, like, I made you, a cop. But she's like, you always babied me. You treated me like a kid. You always he's like, I was trying to protect you. And she's like, I didn't need you to be protected. The Quantow kind of gave me a purpose. They kind of gave me, I guess, like, something like she was missing something with them. I guess, Lee, he said it before that he kind of went out of his way to kind of become a parent to her rather than a brother. He was more like a parent because he felt like he had to step into that role, to fill the void for their parents gone. And I like the whole chase scene, and it was just like trying his hardest to, he's trying his hardest to get his sister out of this whole situation. It's very interesting because that beginning happened pretty soon after the opening, which is just basically, him having fun with Dee Dee, her son, Carter, and Gerald. And it's just like, he was talking about the fact is it made him feel like, he had a family again. Because, I mean, he spent a lot of his, a good chunk of his life without a family. His mom and dad died when him and Kim were like, younger, probably teenagers. So this is kind of his first time really having a family, and it's kind of a balance, it's just between like that hardcore comparison of just like, okay, here's his sister caught up with these bad guys, and he's trying his best to save her, which, at the same time, the comparison is that he, what's the cost of saving her? Because it might jeopardize his current family. Kind of, Carter kind of brings that up later on in the episode. Like, going after this whole Kim situation by yourself is eventually going to lead to you. You said you're happy with your new family, us as your new family, but it's like you might lose that in the end if you just go at this whole situation by yourself. Because it's like, he's like, I'm your partner, but not, I don't like to admit it, but at least, I want you to also know that I'm your friend too. Because he actually went out of his way to not tell anyone what he was doing. Like that Kim was the one who brought the information to him. He just wanted, because I think currently the only person that knows that Kim is still alive is Carter. And it's like, out of anybody, you can trust Carter because Carter still hasn't told anyone that your sister is still alive. Because even Cole didn't even know about that, especially when you got the twist at the end of the episode. But I'm going to get to that later because she was shocked. She was like, oh, yeah, I thought that's what the situation was. But like I said, I'll get into that later. But it ended up being, it's like out of anybody, you can trust Carter. But it's just like he had to handle this by himself. It's his sister. So it's kind of a situation where he is a little emotional in this situation. He kind of gets blinders put on when it comes to his sister. I mean, especially her being his baby sister, too. So. But like I said, he kind of pretended like it wasn't his sister that gave him the information, just some random Quantal member. And the whole while, while they're, everyone else is investigating, Lee's off trying to track down Kim and ends up finding an apartment, at which she was staying. And it ends up being a place where she was meeting up with the dragon as well as others. And I like the scene because, Lee is hiding up there. And I was kind of almost holding my breath because I was like, oh my God, he's going to get caught, isn't he? Especially when he slips and makes a nose. I'm like, oh crap. And then that guy's walking by, you see the sweat on his nose and it's like, oh God, this is going to be that moment. It's going to drip on his head and he's going to get caught. It dripped by him. I was like, oh, he's going to notice that, isn't he? He's going to look up and see Lee. And it was like, nope, he didn't. I was like, oh my God. And Lee jumped down. I was like, what are you? Oh, you got out. They didn't hear that. Okay, good. I was 100% sure he was going to get caught. The interesting thing is you find out later on in the episode when they ended up catching that guy, Xiao Tu, you end up finding out that he's the dragon's son, which I thought was kind of interesting turn of events. Well, before I go any further in that situation, I want to talk about the fact is I really like this. It's a very obviously it's an action comedy show, but it's a very heavily action episode in my opinion. You had the whole situation at the spa, which I really liked. Lee taking on those guys, and especially the bigger dude, and even Dee Dee, handling those guys. She aiming for that guy's nuts and taking him down, and helping that officer dude. He's just like, it's your first time taking down a naked guy. She's like, it's not even the first. Because I love what he said when he walked in. He's like, because Carter was like, yo, try and blend in. He's like, yeah, 7-foot tall white guy, a black leprechaun, and Selena Gomez. Like, yeah, we're gonna fit in just right. But I like that, and the whole police station brawl. That was pretty sick too. And I love the fact that Carter was like, yeah, don't tell Lee I said this, but that was dope as hell. And Dee Dee was like, yeah. He even knocked that one dude's tooth out. I love that it slowed down to it, and you see the tooth flying out of his mouth. It's like, I love the fact is, even the cops were trying to put up a fight. They kind of handled themselves really well. I love the fact is, when it was time for Lee to start kicking some ass, everyone in the room disappeared except for the guys he was fighting. That was pretty handy. And I love it when that guy, the guy that, Carter constantly has beef with, the one who made that joke about, 7-foot white guy and black leprechaun, that guy, when he's like being held at gunpoint and Carter's pointing a gun at him, he's like, shoot, I will shoot you. And Carter's like, yeah, and I'll shoot you. He's like, I will shoot him. He's like, okay then, and I will shoot you. He's like, haven't we already we keep going over this. I already understand it. Dee Dee comes up behind him and shoots him. He's like, he could have shot me. And Carter was like, yeah, I know. It's just like, he's like, honestly, I kind of would have been okay with him shooting me. It's no big deal. But at the end of the episode, they, because they ended up talking to, what's his face? Xiao Tu, they talked to him a little bit, because initially Lee kind of lost his cool and had his foot against his throat, because to him, he was looking at him and it was just a constant reminder of my sister's in this situation because of guys like you took advantage of my sister. And so it infuriated him. He just couldn't stand the guy just sitting there looking so smug and so in control. But it ended up, talking about, extraditing him to other countries where it's like every other country that he was going to be extradited to, the countries he's wanted in, he could face death. Like every other country he's wanted in, for human trafficking, you get death. So he talked a little bit about it and ended up, setting them on the right path. But apparently when you get there, because I like how like I said, I talked about, the whole action sequence in the police station, but I like the fact of how the Quantal snuck in. Basically, they were in a bar nearby and kind of started a bar fight, so they knew they'd get arrested and sent to that specific precinct where he's being held. And apparently when they get there, sadly, Xiao Zhao Tu is dead, which I was thinking like, okay, did someone else kill him or did he kill himself so he wouldn't talk? And it turns out that it was his dad's order. It was like, that's pretty harsh. Granted, it's kind of like, because the way he made it sound is like, oh, like, get me my son back. It's like, I feel like they could have gotten him out of there, but I guess they felt like the easiest way was like to kill him. It's like, I guess, because, I mean, truth be told, his mom was a prostitute, that one of her frequent visitors was the guy that's the dragon, kind of, which I can only assume as a dragon, that means he's the head honcho of the Quantao. But it's just it's kind of sad. He seemed a little heartbroken, but he was just kind of more like, oh, we have to replace him. We have to find a new Red Pole, which I can only assume is kind of a higher up lieutenant position. Maybe I'm stupid, so yeah, I am stupid. So don't I like that's I can only interpret that as like, oh, this is a higher up position in the whole Quantao, which in my brain I'm thinking like Kim might be the one they're thinking about filling that position with. Just kind of got that feeling. Eventually Lee did tell Carter about what the fact is that it was Kim who brought him into it. And like I said, he's talking about the fact is you need to let me know about this stuff. Like, I know you can't let everyone else know about this situation, but at least let me know I'm your partner, your friend. And he's just like, I understand. And kind of brings him in on it by the end of the episode, which, it's pretty interesting because, like that means they're working together on this and listening in and everything, which no one else knows. That was also visited with that was also together like after we get the big twist of the episode where we find out because Captain Cole is met with the head of the FBI, a CIA agent, as well as some Chinese police official. Essentially, Kim is undercover. Everything has been undercover. All this bullcrap she's been feeding to her brother is so he doesn't know. Because basically she doesn't want him to break her cover. But it's just like, I guess like in her mind, once you're undercover, you kind of have to cut ties with people. So it makes your cover more solid. But it's just kind of like, you could have told your brother, like, you're up here kind of making him thinking he's done something wrong. But I guess it's just like I said, I guess it just adds more to the cover. So it's just like, I mean, it makes you wonder, do they know that they are connected? Well, they probably know because they already knew she was an officer before she was brought in. They knew she was a part of the police. That's how they know they got an inside man that was connected to the police. So that's what that whole situation was. So they already know she's a police and at least her brother. But, keeping him at a distance, pretending like he's the enemy, I guess, that, like I said, solidifies her cover. And it makes things even more complicated because he's thinking he's got every opportunity he gets, he's going to try and save his sister, not knowing he's jeopardizing her work, But I guess, even more so if she told him the truth, he'd be worrying about her so much. And it just makes matters worse. So it's going to be an interesting turn. That's a very interesting turn of events to see where that goes from there. Because I really like that dynamic of him trying so hard to save her. But, it was interesting when you had to kind of try to understand how she could justify what she was doing. It was very interesting. I did like the fact is that when we kind of got that flashback on when he found out about his parents' death, that we actually saw the TV and it looked like it was like a Chinese subtitled Walker Texas Ranger. So maybe that's kind of where he kind of got interested in fighting and being a lawman was from Walker Texas Ranger. Because both him and his sister were sitting there watching, and that was kind of interesting. It's very weird to look at to see it subtitled in a different language. I mean, it sounded dubbed in English. I mean, I paid somewhat attention to it, but I was just, I was like, is that Chuck Norris? Is this Walker Texas Ranger? And it looked like it. So, you see Chinese subtitles, but it's just like, it sounded like it was, still English, in the original English language, but it was subtitled. So I thought that's kind of interesting. It's so weird because I'm so used to seeing stuff. I'm so like, I watch anime, so it's so interesting to see anime. Well, no, I won't lie. Never mind. I'll take that back because I recently came across a movie that was kind of imported from. Essentially, the movie was in English, but it had Japanese subtitles. So, never mind. It was just interesting. All around, very interesting episode. One of my favorite aspects was when Gerald was kind of doing his illegal thing. He's like. Yes, you caught me. I went back to a life of crime. He's like, when did you ever leave? He's like, I left it Tuesday because I, had to catch up on some stuff on my DVR. I was watching True Detective season 2. He's like, honestly, it's not as bad as everyone thinks. And when Carter was about to give him a hug about all the information he was giving him, he noticed that he was in his box. He's like, what's that? He's like, yeah, this coat was expensive. I just couldn't afford a pants. It's like, who cares if you can afford any pants? Just put some pants on in general. He's like, oh, you ain't gonna hug me because I ain't got no pants on? It's like, it's gonna be like that. It's kind of like, cover yourself up. It's like, put some lotion on. You got your thighs out and everything. He's like, put some lotion on your legs. It's just like, oh, I really love, I like that. And like I said, what we got at the beginning where we see them kind of all around at the beginning playing, it's just like that whole family thing. I really like that. Especially, he's like, damn, put some money in a swear jar. He's like, damn, hell. And he's just like, son of a, and he's like, Gerald, eat this before you go broke. So, but all around a nice episode. Really liked it. But that's really all I want to say about this. Till the next time we meet, though, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.